All right, all right, all right. This is probably going to offend you. If not you, it'll offend other people. I know for a fact it will. But I just wanted to, you know, point out something that's painfully obvious to me, doesn't seem to be obvious to most people. And that is this sort of thing right here, what you've been saying, what you've been doing, ma'am, is a big problem. And you probably don't think it is, but it actually is. And this dynamic is a big reason why we have a lot of the issues we have in our society today. I mean, I went and I looked at your Facebook page and I see you with your pictures of Charlie Kirk and everything on there. So I would be safe to assume that you're one of those I am Charlie Kirk types, jumping on that bandwagon and everything. When the fact is, ma'am, that it's clear that you're a feminist, and I'm going to explain to you why. You came out on this post here trying to say that since that woman spit at the man, that if the spit didn't hit the man, then that he wouldn't be able to press charges for anything. And you were confident in that, even though you obviously had never been involved in a situation like that, didn't have any law enforcement experience, hadn't even like gone to court or been involved with a friend or relative who had been in a situation, nothing, hadn't done any research about it or nothing. But just because you thought in your own head, well, the spit didn't hit him, so that's not a crime, so he can't press charges for anything, because you thought that and it gave you a positive emotional response, well, then you just accepted that to be true. And you did that because that is how feminine minded people do what is almost critical thinking. That's how feminine minded people understand their worldview, the reality around them. If they think something and it gives them a positive emotional response, they just say, well, that felt good, so it must be true. They don't stop and ask themselves, could I be wrong here? I mean, have I ever been involved in any sort of assault or assault or battery or any sort of legal affairs like that? Have I ever had someone really, really close to me that was involved in that I'm privy of how that worked? Have I done any sort of I don't know, research into the subject that would tell me that that if the body fluid, and that's the legal definition, element right there that makes it battery or at the very least assault, is that it's a body fluid. It's a biological agent, just like, your fist is. So your body fluid is considered an extension or a part of your body. So if you throw urine at someone, that could also be assault and possibly battery, because your urine is a body fluid and it's considered a part of your body. So it's just like you throw urine at someone is legally the same as throwing your fist at someone. See, I know this. How do I know this? Because I'm a grown adult and I've actually had experience being involved in situations like that. I mean, so when I tell you, no, he could press charges on it because that would be battery. Because, and I didn't say just because I think it's that way, just because I think it like that. I didn't say that. I explained to you that it's no different than if I were to throw my fist at someone, if they ducked or moved, or I was just not a very good fighter, and I missed them, I'm still guilty of assault and battery. Here's another example, ma'am. I know some stuff. If I tell you a chicken dip snuff, look under his wing and you'll find a skull can. Okay? Here's another one. If you go up to someone with a stick in your hand and a sheet over it and you say, stick it up or I'll shoot, the fact that that's only a stick doesn't mean you're not guilty of armed robbery. See, if you go up to someone and you just present yourself as being armed and you rob them, that's armed robbery. So you can't say, well, it wasn't anything but a sheet, or it was just my finger held like a gun under a sheet. it wasn't really a gun, so that wasn't armed robbery. It doesn't work like that either. That's still armed robbery. I mean, it's your intention. It's not that you actually consummated the act, it's that you intended for that act to happen. See, I know this. You know why I know this? Because I'm not some gal on Facebook with ideas that I've never even tried to verify or refute. These ideas that give me a good positive emotional response, and therefore I say that must be true because it felt good to me. See, and it's just amazing how you people get online and you got no education in it, you got no training in it, you got no direct personal lifetime experience in it. But because, everybody knows this is true, you think you know stuff. And then you encounter somebody like me, and I don't just say, just pull it out of my ass like you did. I mean, I give you logical, reasonable examples that correlate back to this situation to explain to you how this is true. Doesn't work. Nope. Can't tell feminine-minded people anything, because if you feminine-minded people, it's not just women. There are a lot of men who think like this too, but they think feminine. And you can't just stop and think and accept the fact that what you think is true that gives you a positive emotional response, it might not be true. Because if it's not true, then you lose your positive emotional response, and that makes you very sad. So you care more about that good feeling of knowing some stuff. I know more than he does. I ain't no fool. Everybody knows this is true. It gives you that feeling of power and influence and knowledge and intelligence or whatever. And so you hang on to that. You hang on to that, your little clutches. And because you want that a lot more than you want to know what is true or not true. And that aspect of the feminine thinking versus the masculine thinking, that is why it took men to build civilization. That's why it took men takes men to maintain and protect civilizations today. Because the masculine mind is interested in, what do we actually know? How do we know it? Is what we know true? Why is it true? Is this the best way of doing something? Is this an effective way of doing something? How do we know it's the best and effective way of doing something? That's how men built civilization. Women and feminine-minded men, here's what they do. How do I feel about this idea? How do I feel about this goal? How do I feel about accomplishing the goal? How do I feel is the best way to accomplish the goal? And then they'll all get together and they'll talk about how each other feels about it. And they want to make sure that everyone feels seen and recognized and understood and included. And this is why there's not a building on the face of this planet that's been built by a crew of nothing but women. You won't find one. You'll find buildings that have been built by crews which included some women. But you will not find a building on this planet that was built by nothing but women. Why? Because they don't think in that logical, methodical way. So the crew has got to have enough men on there to sit down and think about it mechanically, logically, reasonably, and come up with a process divorced from how those ideas and processes make them feel on the inside. So I don't know. I see over there on your page that you're either married or, you got a baby daddy or something. It looks like you have a child and some guy that you seem to be real emotionally, relationally cozy with and everything. I really, 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 really hope that in your relationship that this is not the theme in your relationship where whatever it is that you think feels good and, well, it makes sense to me is the arbiter of what you believe is true or untrue. And what's even more amazing is that all you did to get to this point of concession here, the only thing that you did was went to AI. Still no real research, no understanding. Just went to AI and did a little Google search. Where in God's name would you be in life if you didn't have Google? How would you know stuff? I don't know. If you're smart, you defer to your husband, but How would you be able to verify anything if you didn't have Google? If someone spit towards me from their car and I was in the car next to them and the spit did not hit me, can I press charges? And I bet when you type that up, you were just so sure of yourself that no, this big fat redneck man, he don't know what he's talking about. I'm a woman and I'm redheaded and I got Google AI. I'm gonna show him a tour thing. Yeah. And then your AI here, you can report it, but without the spit actually hitting you, it is unlikely the criminal charges will go anywhere. You know what that means? It might be considered harassment or disorderly conduct depending on intent, but most police departments won't pursue it unless there was direct contact or a clear threat. And then your comment, I asked AI, well, bless your heart, I guess if the judge was in a good mood that day, you might be able to get assault, but not very likely. You still don't know what the hell you're talking about. And the reason you don't know what you're talking about is you don't understand, like, people try to claim that women are the better communicators. But I look at situations like this and you don't even understand what the words are. So you're still clinging to it, but you clearly didn't understand what AI is saying or how it relates back to the dispute you and I were having. I'm going to try to clarify this for you, madam. Okay? If the judge was in a good mood that day, you might be able to get assault. What is our difference of opinion in this discussion? Our difference of opinion is whether or not the guy in the car that was being harassed in the road rage incident, whether or not he could press charges. My contention, which is the right one, is that he absolutely can press charges because that is battery. At the very least, it's assault. Okay? And your argument is, no, it's not. I don't have any experience in this, and I haven't even used Google AI yet, but I'm going to argue with you, mister, because I have a gut feeling and I'm a ginger. Yeah. So you finally go to AI over here, and AI says that yes, you can report it. It might be considered harassment, disorderly conduct, depending on intent, but most police departments won't pursue it. Right? And that part is true because these police departments, they do a whole bunch of that not pursuing things, which is a problem. So you come back, you couldn't just say, see, this is another part of the feminine mind. I've been married for 36 years, 35 years. And my wife has said before that when we were young and she and I were in the same sort of a position you and I are in here, when she was like in her early 20s or in her 20s or whatever, she would say that, like into our argument, that she would realize that what I was saying made complete sense, but she couldn't just concede. She couldn't just, and so that's kind of what you're doing right here is you're hanging on to it. You're hanging on to it, and you still got to hang on to some part of being right. See, some part of it. So you come and you say, if the judge was in a good mood that day, that statement tells me that you don't even understand how the criminal process works. This is why there's a big difference in AI and having an education. I mean, people like you that you want to try to prove your argument by Googling up an AI thing. I mean, I guess y'all think that, we have AI now, we can just shut down the universities. We can just get rid of the libraries. Just throw away all the books now because we have AI. If we have a question, we can just dial it up on AI. And whatever AI tells us, that's true. And that's how we're going to govern our lives. And that's why, again, it took men to build civilization, and it takes men to continue maintaining and protecting civilization. That's a fact. So here's how I know that you don't have very much or any experience at all with the criminal justice system or anything to do with this topic. Your snarky little girl comment here. I guess if the judge was in a good mood that day, you might be able to get assault, but it's not very likely. How do you end up in court that day? with that judge that might be in a good mood that day. How do you end up in court that day? You end up in court that day because you have pressed charges, and the person has been arrested, and the person has posted bail, or he sat down there in a jailhouse until the arraignment here. See, and then you get to court and find out whether or not the judge is going to convict the guy or sentence him or acquit him or whatever. So even if you get to court with a judge that's in a bad mood, which wouldn't really matter, but I'm working within your stupid hypothetical here. Even if you get a judge that's in a very bad mood, the man in the car who was spat at, he has still successfully pressed charges on the woman who did the spitting. And that's what your argument was that you couldn't press charges for that because the spit didn't hit him. The spit has to hit him. I don't have any real understanding or experience or education in this subject, but I'm a woman. So I know what I'm talking about because this makes me feel so good on the inside. So it's true. So no, at the end of the day, the judge's mood doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you can press charges for someone who tries to somehow get their body fluid on you against your will. The judge doesn't have anything to do with that. By the time you get to the judge, you have already pressed the charges. So why not just be a little bit more mature and just concede that you were wrong? And in that way, you can learn something. And when you learn something, you'll be a lot less dumb. Yeah, I'm Dane.